hand it off to my father, who is going to give the history of where this martial art came from and where it is now.
Hello. Okay. Arnis is a word that really did not exist before the Spanish took over the Philippines. It is a Southeast Asian martial art where the influence came from countries like India, Japan, China, Indonesia, and Malaysia. There was no specific name that the word Arnis came about when Spain came over to the Philippines. Before that, it was named by different names. There was the country being a 7,000 has 7,100 islands, and it has 185 languages and dialects, which made it very different to have a one unified system. So as you can see in this illustration, there's at least 50 different martial art systems in the Philippines. Eventually, the Spaniards came up with a word to describe the whole Filipino martial art called Arnis, Kali, or Eskrima. Okay? In the north of the Philippines, the founder, Rolando came up with his own style through two generations of their family called Cinco Teros Baguio. Okay? So if you can see, it's one of those among 50 different styles. The rule of kingdoms and tribes, and they have to be knowledgeable enough to be able to defend their town or their family or their tribe. Now, specifically about Cinco Teros, the name came about because the basic strikes that they were doing was 5 strikes, which means that Cinco Teros means it's just a basic 5 strikes. There was actually no name of their art because it was a family art that was just handed from generation to generation. Then eventually, when Rolando took over, he came up with a name, since he is from Baguio, which is the north of the Philippines, with the name Cinco Teros Baguio. Cinco Teros is very similar to all other Filipino martial arts because it uses rattan sticks as a training tool. It is actually a blade art, but in order to hide it from people that might not be happy seeing someone that is wielding a sword or a knife, they just decided that let's do it using a stick. And that's how it came about. But practically any of these 50 styles of Filipino martial art are bladed art, which means it is how do you wield a knife, how do you wield a sword. But you don't see them because they only use sticks for that particular training. Anyway, what we're going to demonstrate is a slightly unique style of Filipino martial art, which is the version of my founder, Rolando. So I'll turn it over to Omi, and that's Omi and that is Andy. They'll help out in demonstrating the art.
So, I will be demonstrating the about 5 basic strikes. If you would like to participate, just on your own, you don't need to come up front over here, but just participate. This is very accessible because it is very basic motions to defend yourself in situations you might find yourself in, either on the subway or on the street, and it is something that I know that would do really good honor for our family for you to learn. So, first, we're going to start with what's called bugay. Bugay means the bowing gesture before you train. The first thing you do is you put your hand over your heart like this, and then you turn the palm forward and use the back of your hand to touch your forehead. This means a sincerity to train, and it also pays respect to teachers and the people you are training with. First, we're going to show you the first 5 strikes from the shoulder chamber. So the shoulder chamber is your hand up here. We're not going to do any footwork right now, just a shoulder chamber. You're going to go from one angle all the way down to your hip. Because this is representing a machete, you want to make sure that your blade edge is always turned out from the top all the way down to the bottom of your hip, as if this was a pitcher's box. So, strike 1 is from a shoulder chamber, no footwork. 1. And then from here, you end at your hip. From your left hip up to your right shoulder, it's going to go up for 2. And then from this shoulder chamber, it's going to go from your right hip up to your left shoulder, 3. And then from your left shoulder down to your right hip, 4. And then from the side chamber here, from your right hip, you're going to thrust forward into the solar plexus, 5. So again, we're just going to do the 5 strikes. Shoulder chamber down the left hip, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you don't have an Arnis stick, you can do this with a rolled up newspaper. You could even do this with your hand bladed. So without an Arnis stick, same idea. 1, making sure you're cutting with the blade of your hand. 2, shoulder chamber. 3, 4, and 5. As we progress with the footwork, there will be body rotations to add power to the strikes, but for our purposes right now, it's just the fundamental strike patterns. So again, a few times, we're going to go 1 through 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll notice, besides me holding up the mic with my left hand, everybody else has their left hand over their heart. This is to make sure that this hand is ready to parry or counter with any other more advanced level maneuvers that we won't show today, but your left hand is doing something. So we're going to do this a few more times, all in consecutive strikes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll notice we're always cutting across the straight line, and it is always focusing on the hips and the shoulders. If you want to try, feel free to do that. We're going to do this off our left hand, same idea. Left hand, left shoulder to the right hip, 1. Right hip to the left shoulder, 2. Left hip, right shoulder, 3. Right shoulder, left hip, 4. Left hip, thrust, 5. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And reset. So the cool thing about this martial art is once you actually add body angles, your opponent or the person that you are fighting will not be able to tell the length of your weapon. So right now we have a straight on approach. You can see how long this weapon is. Once you're actually in a stance and you turn your body, the weapon is now hidden, so you don't know from front facing how long this weapon actually is, and that is what gives you your advantage. Whether you step forward, whether you slide forward, or whether you're going back, this kind of weapon length is always hidden, which is the secret of, one of the secrets of this martial art. So now we just showed the basic 5 strikes, the 1, the 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to add stepping. So for our purposes here, we're going to have our right foot in front. This is going to mimic fencing, very quick steps, or boxing, very quick steps front and back. With each strike, we're going to be doing an attack retreat footwork. So what this means is it's going to be a quick step forward on each strike, and then quickly go back as if there's a hot plate underneath your foot. So it'll be forward and back. So attack, retreat, attack, retreat. In context, every time you strike, you reach for the opponent, you slice, and then you get out of attack range. So it looks like this very quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the purpose of this motion is to get in and get out. You have a range, somebody's attacking you, showing intent to be aggressive. You get in and you get out. Number 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll do that again. Right foot is in front. Attack, retreat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In boxing, you probably see this with jabs as you close distance or when you move side to side. The concept is the same, except instead of a fist, your machete or your arnis is now the extension of your arm. The next is going to be retreat, attack. So same idea. Every time you do a 1 through 5 strike, instead of going forward and then quickly back, you're going to be going back and quickly forward. This is so that if there's an attack coming, you intercept and then close the space to take over that opponent's area. So here on strike 1, from the right shoulder to the left hip, back and forward, retreat, attack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll notice on the thrust, I am following through and going up. This is just out of habit to get ready for a backhand in case another thing happens in any case scenario. So we'll try that again. Shoulder chamber, retreat, attack on every strike. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, you have to make sure that every time you strike, you're imagining that this is your blade. So you don't want to change your wrist angle. You can use your knuckles as a guide for where the blade edge is pointing. It's always a slice every time. Okay, we'll try that again. Retreat, attack. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you would like a challenge, you can try this off your left hand. Basically, it's the same idea, except now your left foot is in front and your left hand is one doing each strike. So we'll do attack, retreat first, and then retreat, attack, quick feet. Make sure you're light on your feet. So
corto mano with the flow is how we're using this. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm feeding him now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's feeding me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm feeding him. Last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will notice the importance of that left hand being always ready because you don't know what's going to happen. So, we're going to do this and show you how stepping from side to side will actually change the orientation of the flow. And you'll see us rotating every time we reset each 5 strikes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I feed him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He feeds me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I feed him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So we'll do the same flow we just did with Andy. My dad and I will show you the same 5-strike flow, but you will notice how this looks like a slash, not hitting somebody with a blunt object. It's an actual slash, making sure you know where the blade actually is at all times.
So I'm going to be feeding my dad first. When I say feeding, it means I'm doing the 5 basic strikes. He will do the counters and then we will switch. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll notice you have to get out of the way of this long machete. You also need to know where the edge is at all times. Once you get into closer combat with a smaller, more realistic in this day and age weapon like a knife, it will look a little bit different, but the concepts are exactly the same. So instead of a big motion to control a big weapon like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now it's staying within your shoulders and within your hips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You build up the reflexes because you know where the attack angles are coming from, because you drill that over and over. So I will feed my dad first, then he will feed me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In an ideal situation, you will not let the fight last this long. So if he comes in for a stab and you have the luxury of having a knife, what we do is called Kunting, which means scissors in Tagalog. So just a strike 5. So a most common strike is this, the shank here. If I had a knife, I move out of the way and I just slice. Done. I cut his tendons. That is if you have a knife, and that is if you have already combat awareness to know the intent. This isn't some magic that you'll all of a sudden know how to do this because you saw this one time at the park. You need to understand people's intent when they are going to attack you, so you're prepared for anything that might come. So we'll do the flow, and I will jump in at the last second to show you what Kunting looks like. So I'm going to feed him first. 1, 2, 3, 4. He feeds me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I feed him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I feed me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now, each counter, I'm going to do a Kunting just to show you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because you already know the angles, you know that the strikes are coming from 5 different angles, he could actually end up doing whatever he wants, but I will know where to position my body, how to parry, and how to attack the counter immediately. So we'll do that again. I will do the 5 strikes, he will do the Kunting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every strike is a tendon cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In reality, you'll probably not have a knife. You will probably have empty hand and somebody else will have a knife. So, if I don't have a knife, he has a knife. You take the same exact motion. So with the 1, instead of passing and hitting or passing and cutting, I'm going to pass and hit his joint right away. The weapon is going to be going past my head because I already have gotten this footwork and this coordination down. I will make sure that I am safer because I want to disable his weapon before going in for an attack. As opposed to what people typically like to do, which is this. Oh, a knife. Stop. Or they try to aim for the head, which is a farther target. Your opponent is literally giving you something to hit, so take advantage of that. You have 1, hit, right here, 2, hit, 3, hit, 4, hit, or 5, hit. With proper timing and correct form in each strike, that is a very devastating blow to not only their arms, but also their ego. They're the ones aggressing, and all of a sudden the person they're attacking is now being aggressive to them and disabling them. That gives you that split second of opportunity to lay out the other person. So I'll do this again. 1, hit, 2, hit, 3, hit, 4, hit, 5, hit. I'll do it slow with no power just so you can see where I'm making contact. 1, here, 2, here. You notice this is 4, here, 3, 4, 5. I'm always neutralizing the threat first before I go in for the attack. Now, if you want to go for a disarm, when you get to the higher levels of Cinco Teros and Silat, this is what it would look like to go for a disarm. So I'm just going to do either a stab or a strike. These are the two typical things you'll see on the street. So stabbing. Now that was very slow. In reality, it would look like this. His body positioning makes it look like there's nothing happening. But I assure you I cannot hit him. So that was with a counter if I withdrew the knife and I did a stab. I freak out, I throw a left hook, I pull this one back and I do a hammer fist or a slash. He just countered that. So stab, hit, boom. He controls my body because he's using this part of the elbow to break my posture down, also pivoting away from the attack, throwing my momentum off the center. Right here, if I tried to punch, he's already chambered for something else. He has the weapon that I just gave him. He disables me, and if for whatever reason I feel like attacking still, he can do that. We'll do this one more time. So I'm coming up. I'm being real sketchy on the street. Looking at him, I'm like, I really like his wallet. Stab. Ooh. Oh. The basic premise here is disorient, reposition. As long as you can do as long as you can do this and push them away, you have a chance to run. So same thing here. He comes around with whatever, he opens himself up. 80% of this is mindset. You cannot use any techniques that you use if you don't have the right mindset. So please don't mistake this for, if you do this, it'll work 100% of the time. We don't know what'll happen on the street. So, disclaimer, if you see this and you now want to pick a fight with somebody, don't. So now we're going to show you a little bit more of a traditional disarm with Arnis sticks. You'll notice that my dad will start grabbing the sticks because it is not a blade in this situation. It is just another stick. He doesn't have a stick. I feel really confident that I can just lay him out like this. So very simple movement. He just got out of the way and made sure he had a stronger posture and took over my center. You'll notice the sidestepping footwork that we did before, or attack retreat, or retreat attack. Same idea, all you do is plug and play given the situation. Because it's concrete here, he's being very nice to me. So, finally, this hand's in front, the left hand's in front. This left hand is going to be chamber for the uppercut. 2, it's just there. He still has this, straight punch. 3, same thing, straight punch. 4, now that right hand comes into play, and he can counter the left, and then 5, straight punch. That right hand was already there. He could break my elbow or hit my floating rib, which would break my posture, and then he can do whatever he wants. When it's all said and done, when it's all said and done, the basic foundation of this martial art is simplicity with deadly force as quickly as possible. The idea of this is to be able to train the entire village, no matter what age, no matter what experience level, as quickly as possible to fend off foreign invaders. That's why it is such a simple concept that over time with mastery becomes very lethal in the street and has practical applicability. So, I want to thank you all for taking the time of your day, beautiful day out to watch this demonstration. I want to thank my dad, who is presenting this martial art for the very first time in Cinco Teros history. And we're very grateful to have my sister, Carisha, running the Queensboro Dance Festival and hosting us and many other great artists. And finally, I want to thank my brother-in-law, Andy, for jumping right in and holding on to this family tradition that's very important to us. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great Saturday. Oh, I almost forgot, sorry. So at the end, we're gonna do Pugay.
At the end, to bow out, just like we bowed in. It's Pugay. You put your right hand over your heart, your feet are shoulder width apart, and then you bring your back of your hand to your head to show respect for the art and sincerity to train. Thank you all.